at Orange Theory, at the end of the class, the instructor's like, let's all give a clap on the count of 3. And they go 1, 2, 3. I'm like, that's not on the count of 3. That's after
the count of 3.
One, like on the count of 3 is 1,
2, 3. Yeah, well, they used to do the things with the. I remember watching this old video of Clint Smith where they do like these countdowns to like. So like if you had a team, so like the team would do different things on separate counts. So it's like, okay, snipers are going to go at 3, door breaches will go at 2, people will make flashbangs go in at 1.
Nobody can get it
right. And so yeah, well you go like 5, 4, and then when they say that they had to 3, the sniper shoot, 2, boom, 1, flashbangs go in, and then they go in there. And so it's like when people say like, we'll give a count of something, like whatever people mean, like we'll give a count of 3, let's count down to 10. It's like the old Lethal Weapon joke. Are we going on 3 or are we going 3 then go? Right? When he's on the toilet that they wired with explosives. Who would wire a toilet with explosives?
I mean, you got to practice that shit. You can't just assume people understand what on the count of 3 means.
Yeah.
You got to role play that.
Yeah, well, imagine if that's how we set off our shot timers. It'd be like, no, you were a second slower than me. I wasn't a second slower than you. You said to go on 3.
Or launched our nuclear warheads. Okay, on the count of 3, turn your key. You said on 3.
Lockout, and then you can't pull one key.
Looks like Russia won the nuclear war.
It's probably prevented us from nuclear war like 4 times. That same situation. I gotta pull Duolingo and see how to count down in Russian from 3, 2, 1.
Golly, you go back through some of like the history and you see all the times that like nuclear war was like just narrowly averted by like a commander like disregarding orders or
there was a Russian officer who just refused to go along with his sub commander. He's like, no, I don't think this is real. I'm just gonna wait.
Yeah. Well, and then you had like NORAD that had like a funky tape, a training tape that was playing in the back, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, it's happening, and like they couldn't like get their stuff together to do it, and then it was like, oh, it was a training tape.
Are they listening to a rebroadcast of the War of the Worlds, or what is going on here?
Yeah.
Didn't that happen last year, right, in Hawaii? Like they said there was like inbound missiles or something crazy.
Yeah, a couple of years ago. Yeah, someone tripped.
People were freaking out, like hiding it, like pulling up the manhole covers and hiding out because they thought they were going to get it. Like
pulling up the manhole covers.
Geez.
Do you hide in the sewers? Is that the idea?
I guess that way, if you turn radioactive, at least you'll turn into something radioactively cool.
People were being told to like take shelter in their bathtub in the hotel room. It's like, last place I'm taking shelter is my bathtub on the 15th floor. No, thank you.
If you ever want a textbook example of why you should never trust anything that comes out of the government, these are the same people that told us duck and cover would protect us from thermonuclear warfare.
Duck and cover would prevent them from having to wrangle up survivors. That's what that would. It's like, what's this turtle shell over here? Dead kid, dead kid, dead kid. This one tried to run. He's somewhat burnt. We better save him.
That's a classic example. It's like, what's the message? We got to have a message. Well, how about duck and cover?
Yeah. What's something?
Okay, you win, Bob. I got nothing better.
What's it? It's like, what's the? There's no chance.
Okay, you can't say that.
Yeah. Oh, let me get this particle board desk that's connected to this chair, and I'll tip it on its side, facing the blast. Imagine, but somebody probably had that idea. Is like, hey, your little high school desk that you sit in from the right, which is terrible for left-handed people, and you put your little left arm. It's closed in right there. It's like, we will tip that.
What we're talking about.
I know that one all too well.
We'll tip that towards the blast, and they did that for like 2 weeks, and then like, you know how many how many
got the shiny coating on it. It would reflect some of the light.
No, because all the Hispanic kids scratched their names into mine. So what would happen is that they would dump those over, and like they broke like 5 of them. Like, we're gonna just break desk, duck and cover. Everyone get another thing. Follow the little tortoise on the screen there with the synced audio, and keep yourself alive.
When the reality is too harsh to discuss, sometimes you just say duck and cover. Like, you're gonna fucking die, all of you.
Grab your butts and kiss them goodbye.
Have you seen the end of Don't Look Up? Yes, that's what's gonna happen.
You're just gonna sit there. You're gonna hold hands. You're gonna say grace, and then the meteor's gonna come and hit you.
I really kind of want to get Netflix again just to watch that show. I keep hearing everybody talk about it, and it sounds really good.
Some of it's pretty funny. Pretty funny. All right. Joining me tonight, I like the rest. That's where I got that restless leg syndrome joke. Because she's like, oh, and here's his Pyrrhus for his GD restless leg syndrome. Have fun with that. And so then I have the restless leg syndrome on my. Joining me tonight, the TSA would like to remind him that they do not need a urine sample at the airport. It's Steve Koski.
It wasn't my urine, just to be clear. I brought a clean sample.
Well, you know, it's something to do something nice because you know that the TSA agent's going to need a clean sample eventually.
It's only a matter of time before they get randoed.
Here it is. It's clean, I swear. And he legally has to inform you that your house is inside the blast radius. It's Robert Wyatt.
Yeah, I did inventory of my gunpowder, and that would be true.
Boosh. He's got to give them the duck and cover lecture at his neighbors. So, in case my house is on fire, what you want to do is duck and cover. And if Kenny Terry ends up showing up, the seams of his shorts can't take another low port. It's Kenny Terry. But I was doing an exercise today where I looked at an airplane, came up with Steve's. I was thinking about my prior's camp with Roberts, and then I was like, can I make a joke out of a USPSA shooting wall? And guess what? I can. What I can't joke about is the amount of money that I spent on primers last week.
What? How much? $1,000, $500.
No, they won't let you buy that much.
What? $400?
$490. So.
For how many primers did he get?
5,000.
Oh, that hurts my heart.
Yeah. Well.
Hang on, I got to give my obligatory look back at my primer.
Shut up. Shut up your
really
face.
Funny. Yesterday, Matt, I was talking with Matt Walkie at the match, and he's like, "So how's your primer situation?" I'm like, "Oh, it's not good. I think I'm just over 82,000 left."
What?
Well, that's a lot. You had like 110 when this whole kind of crazy stuff started.
Yeah. It's getting scarce down here. You know, the dumbest thing about having a lot of like supplies is you did them because you wanted to be able to use them when you would need them in times like this. But now
which is right now.
But now you're like, I should just hang on to these things because I'm not really sure if they're coming back. So maybe we won't use them.
Well, that's like Unsolved Mystery episodes, and I'll tie this in because I'm so clever. You'd watch these Unsolved Mystery episodes where like these 50 or 60-year-old people would turn up dead or turn up missing. And then it'd be like, and then they'd pull like the sad story of like Jim grew up as a teenager in the Great Depression. At 15 years old, he did this, and this. And then you finally like, he's missing like, I don't know, $7 million in gold Cougarans that were inside of his house when his ex-wife disappeared. Like these people, they'd be like, they just save, and then they just keep saving, they keep saving, and they keep saving, and then they would be like all these multimillionaires, but not like, hey, he struck it rich, he made this thing. Is like, no, he was a floor supervisor at the General Motors plant, and was always saving and scrimping and coffee cans.
Out of every $5 he made.
And so they'd have all that stuff. But yeah, so I'm planning on getting most of these all loaded up. I did trade Kenny Terry some of those small rifle primers for small pistol primers. So I got a good amount of small pistol primers. I don't think I have enough clean 9mm brass to load it all, but I will go grab all that stuff. Get it washed.
Range floor. It's back to scrounging times. Boy, times are lean. You know, if Tom's sticking around after the match, picking up brass.
I'll pick around during. I just got to pull it all out and go clean it all out. And then the other thing I did is
it was hard. Like, man, like at the armory, I mean, I needed brass because, you know, I've only got like 15 gallons of it. And so I just, you know, took the shovel and sweeped it into my bag. Hard life. It's a hard knock life.
Yeah, Dan Ward was telling me when he left the bureau, he did some math once and he figured he had like 20,000 pounds of brass. I mean, he just had, maybe I got the zero in the wrong spot, but a ridiculous.
Doesn't matter. It's a lot.
It wasn't the number of cases. It was pounds.
Yeah. Well, that's the that's the crazy thing about that. And it's like how people would kill for that much 40 caliber brass nowadays. They would lose their mind to get that much kind of brass. And then yesterday I entered the NFA life and I purchased a suppressor. So,
attaboy.
No way.
Yeah.
For what gun?
AR-15. We were talking about blowing out everyone's ears in a home defense situation, and I was just like, fine, I will get it. And so I went through this whole thing of getting like a 30 caliber can, and then I decided I'm going to get a 5.56 can. I'm going to get as quiet of a 5.56 can as I can sit there and get on there. And so I got one and put it on there, and I'm sitting there on the silencer shop night with now just before I got on there.
Did you do a single shot trust or?
I did a family trust. So they had it for $130. So now any other NFA item I put in there, I could put on that family trust. And the nice thing about it was $130 for the trust. But the nice thing is you can edit the trust and submit edits to Silencer Shop from the website. So when and you go to the Ready Gunner, and then they do your fingerprints. So like when my kids turn 18, I can just go like, okay, go on the website and then go to Ready Gunner and then have their fingerprint scanned in, and then they are able to possess the NFA item. So, I mean, there's
the silencer shop kiosk that does Ready Gunner have one of those kiosks?
Yep.
That you should be able to do the fingerprints right on that thing.
Yep, that's what we're gonna.
That's awesome.
So
that's right on.
I'll be able to edit it. The single shots trust like $25 or whatever like that, but it's like I'm gonna.
It's a pain in the butt if you're going to do multiples, and it seems to me that like NFA items are a lot like tattoos. Once you get one, you kind of get more, and so until you eventually get to a point where you just realize that the government $200 is ridiculous, and you just start doing things that generally wouldn't be. No, I'm just kidding.
Or
you
just
a family trust, Robert, or what kind of trust setup do you have?
Yeah. It was a traditional trust that was set up for that. And I ran that for a while, and then I actually made a new trust when the ATF kind of changed how they did their. Basically, you had to have responsible persons listed on it, and so I closed that trust, started a brand new trust that has all of that stuff on there. I'm kind of at the point where I can't think of anything else from an NFA standpoint that I really want.
Well,
I've got almost everything that I really.
It sounds right. Judging from your gun buying, what more could you possibly?
Well,
want?
there is stuff that Robert wants that he can't get.
Everything. I've got 3 22 long rifle suppressors, and that's the best suppressor you could ever buy.
I mean, you could get a fully automatic MP5 that only sets you back like $44,000.
I could do that.
You get a registered Lightning Link.
I could do that too.
Or you could just make one for 55 cents.
I could have done that.
You know what they need?
Direct message me for the 3D printer parts.
You know what I'm gonna make? I'm gonna make a fully automatic trigger in a lower that has a door where you can just yank the part out and throw it in a bush. The ATF trap door where you just go clack and then you just go strip it out, throw it out into a bush, close it. Not here, sir. Not here. Just a fast trigger finger. Anyways,
the thing that I would like would be the full auto selector for a Glock. That would be so fun because there was that one time where the cops brought one to the range and they let me put 3 or 4 mags of my own ammo through it, and it was so fun. The first couple times, it's too high and it's too low. You're overdriving and underdriving the gun, and then about the 3rd mag, you kind of got the hang of it. You're like, okay, I can put these all on the. You're out in the 3rd corral, so you got the huge steel, the 20 by 30 inch steel targets, and you're like, I can put all 30 of these on that.
Yeah,
but it takes a while. A little bit.
They're fun. I mean, anybody who's ever shot full auto, they're like, yeah, it's a huge waste of money, but it's just kind of fun.
And a machine pistol would just be the bomb.
A machine pistol would be fun, especially if you got one of those and you could kit it with one of the braces, like one of the stock braces. That would be pretty sweet. And then they have those other things like those Ronies, the CAA Ronies, that are like the submachine gun brace kits. And you just put your Glock in there, and then you charge it, and it's like then you have a Glock 18 in there. Granted, you're not going to be able to mess around with the selector switch, which is on the slide, but that would be fun. And what are those auto sears? Those are just on the back of the slide, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there are parts you can put in a Glock 17 that turn it basically into a Glock 18, and it just replaces parts in the back. But you go to the big house if you're caught with one.
Yeah, those would be fun. Those would be
fun.
a whole lot of fun.
This is the point in time where we say all gun laws are an infringement.
They are an infringement. What's also abusive is on the cover of this month's front side is one JJ Ricazza winning everything with his Beretta 92 defensive. You could see with the thumb safety on the frame.
Running it cocked and locked?
Well, he can't run it cocked and locked in those divisions, but it's a really nice gun. I would actually, that'd be a gun that would be very tempted at looking at getting if
What
it
did he
wasn't
win? Production, single stack.
What hasn't he won this year? Let's see here.
I don't know what he's won. I saw there was a guy on our squad that was shooting one of those Berettas with it was it had the red dot on top of it instead of the good one like the Langdon. Those are really ugly. It just doesn't look great. I mean,
like putting a red dot on a 1911. It's classic, and then it's bastardized.
It's just like this. It's just like this big sail that just was like, well, I got some sticky glue. We'll just put it on there. It doesn't look like. It looks like Beretta just is like, well, we got to put one on there because this is what people now want, but let's do it as cheaply as possible. Buy some extra long screws and done. I don't know. It just didn't look great. I mean,
it's a very simple solution to getting it on the gun.
Sure.
Having the plate on there is pretty decent. But what's funny is it only looks a lot worse than it actually is because the Beretta slide is so like minimal to begin with. Because if you take this optic and you put it right next to that P320 Max, the one that has the Romeo 3 Max, you put them side to side where your hands would line up. The height over bore from the top of the sight is equal on both of them.
What it is, Tommy, is that the Beretta comes up on the top and it's got that nice round thing.
Yeah.
And then the sight that sits on top of it is this big kind of like, so it's rounded like that, and it's just got this big block that just sits right on top of it. And so it just doesn't look good. And if the way guns look is important to you, then that kind of bothers you.
It looks like a flat bill square hat where like people got the baseball caps and we all went from having them like curved over eyes and they're like, we're gonna get these big old flat bills. It kind of reminds you like that. It's like
it does look like that.
You gotta leave the silver sticker on it.
Though. Yeah, you gotta leave the silver sticker. It's like, this is a genuine hat. It's like, I didn't care if it was a genuine hat either. You could put a silver sticker on it.
Wearing a hat like that one day with the silver sticker. I'm like, do you want me to take that off? And I was like, okay, I get it. It's part of the fashion statement.
I'm gonna start leaving the fashion statement of the ink pack or the sensor that starts tripping when you go through the door. You leave that on too. Just to make sure people know it's genuine. Robert, what'd you end up doing?
So we had the indoor match, and then we had the proper Slipsa match, and that was fun. The indoor match was okay. I don't remember where I came in. It was not a great match. I could not seem to get into that match. I was just so busy trying to like be the match director that I kind of just phoned in the match. But the Slipsa match, shot carry optics. I had a good day. I think I shot pretty well, but I took 5th overall in first and carry optics, which I've never done. So I was pretty happy about that.
You won CO?
Yeah.
5th overall? God damn, Robert. That's a good match.
I was surprised. I had a lot of good people in the squad help. I mean, given, to bounce good stage ideas off of. But I was like, man, did somebody not show up in CO today or something?
The gun must have ran like a dream.
The gun ran, except for I had one small malfunction that cost about 2 seconds, but no, it ran. I've been doing all these like load development. Like Gallant Bullets is trying to like change their coding and to a different company, and so I basically just load stuff up just to try and shoot it through. But it was a good day. I came home from the match and I pulled up the scores and I was like, oh wow, I actually did good today.
5th place at Slipsa is no joke.
That's even on a weird day where there's other people going, like 5th place is still effing hard to do because you're still gonna have a lot of the good shooters still showing up. Speaking about those new coated Gallants, one Alex Went shot his best B8 ever on those new Gallant 135s. So he says he's gotten the best accuracy out of those new Gallant 135s he's ever gotten out of a
hell yeah.
So
I think the 135 is probably one of the best rounds out there because it gives you the accuracy of the 147, but it gives you that slide reciprocation you get out of a 124. It's
Robert,
nice.
Tell us about this new coating. Is it a winner? You like it? Is it working well?
I do. It's so the original high-tech coating comes out of Australia. And it has to be shipped there's a licensing agreement that it gets shipped to the United States to a distributor. And then that distributor then ships it to whoever wants to buy it. And there's this new one that comes out of, I believe it's South Africa, but it's a very similar coating. I think it's a little bit softer, but it can still withstand everything you put through a barrel. One of the advantages is that it has a lot of colors. I mean, like
Okay.
lots of colors, like pinks, reds, greens, yellows, all sorts of just crazy little colors. But the biggest reason that Eli at Gallant Bullets was really interested in it was just that he doesn't have to go through the United States distributor, who is
it's
kind of hard to
probably
work with.
half the price of high tech. And if
I
it
think
works,
so.
then it works, and go
Yeah.
for it.
And so it's I had the initial testing that I did on it. It loads just fine. It's the same level of accuracy. There's no difference in that. The biggest thing I noticed was the RCBS die that I was using. If that bullet, as it goes up in the carriage, if it wasn't like nice and flat, it would sometimes like put a little nick in the coating. And I could not figure that out. And I was like, well, just one day I just had this like random thought, like, what if I change out the seating die, just see what happens? And so I used one of my Reading dies, and it all went away. I don't know why. That doesn't make any sense. Logically, it doesn't make sense why that would make a difference. But I same everything else, but the nicks go away. So there's something going on. I'm not sure.
But that
what
might
it
be
is.
something peculiar to your bullet feeder, right?
I think so.
Okay.
In this case, I started hand feeding all of them just to see if I could eliminate. I was trying to eliminate variables.
Your bullet
So-
feeder becoming your left hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
You poor thing.
And so I'd actually like I kind of like walk it right up to it and then seat it in, and it was, but seems to work.
Cool.
Steve?
I mean, I shot LTD a couple weeks ago. I remember wanting to forget about the match, so maybe I should not try and remember it.
Oh no. Oh, dude.
All right, hold on. Tell us about
No,
you got.
no, hang on, really quick.
me write
Yesterday
this
at the
down.
match, there was 4 revolver shooters and 1 production shooter.
Oh, revolver 4 to 1.
4 to 1. Is that
Ouch.
not insane? That hurts. That just hurts.
If only you had an optic, Steve, to put on a gun and a gun to put it on. Oh wait, you have plenty of options to do that. All right, tell us about this car you're selling. This car you accidentally purchased.
Oh my gosh. So Robin and I drove almost to Manti to meet some guy who had this 2004 Kia Rio for sale for $2,500. And when you've driven that far to look at a car,
You're in it to win it.
you're kind of in it. And so we offered him $2,000 and he took it, and he signed the title, and we drove it home. And then we got it home, and the next day Robin drives the car. Oh, we made the mistake of not having her drive it. I was the only test driver. She drove it the next day, and I had been having second thoughts about it because this is for her daughter. Oh, this might be someone who might be coming to buy the Kia Rio who just knocked on my door. We'll be back. All right, sorry. The story is to be continued.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Well, at least we'll get the conclusion of the story. If you would like conclusions to the story, Dominate Defense does not do anything with that. But what they will do is give you a conclusion to your belt needs. Head on over to dominatedefense.com. Use promo code PARA10. Get through a Mach 1 speed belt. Best belt in the industry. Hang a bunch of stuff off it. You'll have a great time. Auto-adjusting, ratcheting action, fantastic stitching. You'll get it. You'll never want to use anything else. All your other belts will sit there.
Until Kenny Terry shows up and he's like, "Hey, how tight can we get this belt?" And he starts like cranking on that ratchet, and you're like, "It's really hurting."
It has a mechanical advantage on doing that to you. So check them out, dominatedefense.com. Also, Gallant Bullets, check out their new bullets. Use promo code PUPRO10 to save 10% off your first order. And check out Precision Holsters, Fast Holsters. Excellent, excellent holster. Probably my favorite holster to sit there and use. Also, head on over to Telegram where you ask us questions, we'll answer questions, and do all that jazz. If Patreon, give $1 a month. You're just supporting the show. Robert.
It's because you love us.
Yes.
Let's see, from Sean Edmonds. 2 matches, 2 days, 2 divisions. How bad of an idea is this?
Not bad.
It's totally not bad.
not-
That's how we did that last year. It was the greatest fun I've had. It was the greatest shooting weekend I ever had. I've done it a couple times. I think it's a lot of fun. Just, be in reasonably good shape. Take care of yourself the first day so that you can jet over and shoot the next match. It's a ton of fun. It's really a ton of fun.
I would say if you had to shoot them in the same day, where like you're split in the freaking squad, where you're doing PCC, or like let's say you're doing PCC and like revolver, PCC or production or something like that. That's a little bit harder because the stage plans, I don't think you really get, you're neither fish or fowl, and you never really get into it. And then some of the stages can bleed into the other one. Where like one run was terrible, so you're really trying to push to make the other run really great, or
Yeah.
thinking about the previous stage. So I don't think that's great. But if it's one day and then the next day, I think that's pretty good. That's a pretty good way to do it. So it just 2-day matches. You're just shooting two different guns on 2 different days, or maybe even the same gun in 2 different divisions. So yeah, have fun.
Just make sure you keep yourself well hydrated no matter what you do. That we pretty much pound liquid IVs all during the match.
I just finished one here. With my special liquid IV cocktail that I make.
Attaboy.
All
They're
it-
$22.99 at Costco right now.
Yeah.
It's the lowest price they'll be all year.
The best way to have a liquid IV is you take a big glass and you fill it 3/4 of the way full of ice. Then you fill it with water, dump that stuff in the blender, get like half a cup more of water, then pour that liquid IV and blend it up. Then you get like a liquid IV icy. It's so good. It's so good. It's the way to fly.
That does sound pretty good. Let's see. Since we are at the doorstep of a war with Russia, what rifle and pistol are you going to grab when World War III kicks off?
Ooh, Glock 17, AR-15.
That's not a bad choice.
I don't think I have so many of those Glock PMags, and I have a bunch of ammunition loaded up. I bought a bunch of those Glock PMags, and then I took each pistol mag pouch on the carriers, and then like my little home defense belt thing, I just filled up with some 147 grain XTPs on some unique, and they're pushing about 1,000 feet per second, so they're hotter for a 147. And I just have my Glock 17 with my red dot and all that jazz, and my wife has a Glock 19, so all those magazines interplay with each other, and then fill up the carriers with freaking AR-15 ammo, some 5.56, and now one of them will have a can, but not before Russia goes on the attack. So
just remember, behind every blade of grass will be some fat out of shape American.
That's fine. Hey, as long as you make the first shot and then get killed, the replacement rate's what we're going after here.
That's what worked for Russia in World War II. I think I like my Beretta. I'm a sucker for Beretta. I just love it. I think it's a good pistol. Otherwise, it'd be an AR-15.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problems carrying around or using this at the Beretta, but I think mostly anywhere you go, you would run into some sort of Glock 17 magazine. If it was ensconced using a pistol, which you would do, I would just pretty much use this 92X with the delta point on it.
I mean, yeah, that really is a good point. I mean, if you're looking for just pure availability and modularity, it's hard to beat a Glock. It's just a perfect working gun.
If I had to do everything over again, let's say I had like no guns, I would buy a Shadow Systems MR920 Glock 19 clone. I would buy a 17 full-size gun, both of those in the optic ready combat models, and I'd buy 2 AR-15s and set one up with a low power variable optic, one with the red dot with the magnifier, both with the same lights, suppressors, and that would be like the arsenal.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the only way to sit there and go. And honestly, it's like a Glock 17 that was red dot ready. I mean, you could still have a ton of fun with that gun in many divisions on the weekend. And even with a Glock 19 and setup like that, you'd be perfectly fine.
Yeah. I don't know. I sure like my 1-6 on my 18-inch rifle. I'm kind of a fan of that, but you can't deny that the dots have worked exceptionally well on rifles. But
yeah, the one thing I can't ever get through is the magnifier. I always like that. I like that magnifier option just because of no parallax. You're very good at shooting stuff fast, and then also if you don't want to carry the magnification, you don't have to carry the magnification.
Yeah.
But on the 1-6, you get very clear, especially on like that Viper PSD. You get like a very clear. It does a better 4 power and it does a better 6 power. It's just the 1 power because the parallax when you get out with the on the bigger magnifiers, the eye box on the 1-6 is a little bit better, but you're just carrying the weight around with it.
Right.
So
Let's see. What's the furthest what's the furthest shot you've ever made with a pistol and with a rifle?
I think we went out to, what was that, Price one time, and I made like an 800-yard hit with my AR-15, which isn't that, because I don't really have a bunch of 30 caliber rifles, and I've made like a 350-yard hit with I think like a Glock or a Beretta. I remember trying to take out the HK-45 and trying to do it with that thing from there. No, I can't line up the sights and then aim higher, loose the thing, and then try to see where it's like, all right, the dirt impact's 12 feet from the base of the target.
On the plus side, I mean, that 45 is traveling so slow that you can just kind of watch it arc its way on in there.
Yeah, I mean, if you get some like neon coated bullets, that would be pretty sweet, because you could pretty much just track something like that as it's flying, so subsonic. So
yeah, I think I shot a target at 650 with my AR, and we shot some. I sit down at Sups, and they had a plate out. It was like 125, and we were just dorking around, and I shot it from there. I've never really tried to see how far I could leg out pistol.
yeah, it gets a lot better with it. Honestly just gets a lot better with the dot, just because you can see so much below the line of sight. Because on the iron sights would cut it off, so you kind of bisect it and then go higher and go from there. But honestly, on the dot, you have so much on something like the Delta Point 2. You have so much on the lower half of the window.
Yeah.
You can really kind of lob them in there.
Yeah, you're doing it, you're not shooting blind, but you are shooting compromised, I guess.
Yeah, you're definitely coming up with the solution as you go.
Yeah. From Mark Miller, what are your thoughts on making the ROCR class more online based, at least the classroom portion? I think more people would be willing to attend a one-day course, especially if you are traveling to attend the class. I think this is a fantastic idea, because I know a lot of folks who they cannot make a 2-day class. They just can't.
I wouldn't mind if they sat there and they parsed it out in sections with video instruction. You know, if you had, and honestly, maybe this is something that USPSA can take a look at, and some of the presidential candidates can take a look at, is that if we had a full-time CRO or CRO instructor, who basically his job was to be at headquarters, or at least post it up and have access to questions that if people were watching videos and then didn't quite understand it, could email or text or call and then get a clarification, and then they could pass off their sections. Because if you took up that RO class and you cut it up into 8 different sections that people could break off and test on those individual sections, on a timer, here's a class is timed or whatever, and then go through that, then I think that would be a pretty good way of handling it, instead of trying to set up instructor classes everywhere for 2 days with materials. I think it'd be a quick, easy way to kind of do it.
Oh, I agree. No, I really think that's kind of the best way to go. It just gives you a lot more options. I'm sure there's probably some things that get lost by doing a video versus having an in-person instructor, but I think it's a step in the right direction. So the question, Steve, is what are your thoughts on making the ROCRO class more online based?
Ooh, let me think about that while I find out if this guy's buying the car or not.
Okay, so next question. Do you own soft or hard armor? What's the logic behind the choice to own one or use one over the other?
Well, generally, like your soft body armor, I mean, there is that safe line stuff that will stop some inmate 5.5, but none of that stuff is really concealable. Generally, unless your lifestyle recommends that you have to wear body armor and concealment, you're mostly going to have hard armor.
Yeah.
Generally, because it's going to stop mostly everything that's put out there. I mean, and especially if you're. So I have 2 sets of. Well, I have 3 sets of hard armor. I have 2 sets in carriers. And so, and like one sits there by the bed. So it suddenly goes bump in the night, and I think it's pretty serious. I can slide in one of those and then strap the cummerbund kind of hastily over the top of it, and not have to web it underneath the magazine pouches. But generally the point is the only reason that you would like soft armor is concealability.
Yeah.
Because soft armor, there's a lot of armor, especially like some of those level 4 ceramic plates and some of the steel plates. Steel plates, obviously, you're going to have to find some way to mitigate the spalling effect, either through spall guards or having a carrier that's lined with Kevlar. So it's like a soft body armor carrier on the outside, and then you put the plate in, and that actually protects you from the spalling coming from the inside out. But what was I going to say here? Having those things set up there is like there's not a lot of that stuff that's even going to receive a back face deformation from a solid hit. So if someone breaks in there with a 30-06, you might get something. But if they're sitting there with 5.56 or 9mm, you probably would not even feel it hit the armor plate. So you can have that, but soft body armor, truthfully, the soft body armor is harder to get into. And there's a lot of back face deformation that could happen. Like you're going to break ribs.
You're going to break some ribs.
You're going to break some ribs. Your heart might stop. You could have some serious problems. But the other part is like what's nice about having the hard armor is just generally most of the rigs that come with hard armor allow you to put other things on that armor. So not only do you have the ability to stop bullets, but you have your magazines, and most importantly, you have your medical equipment that's already on you, or a place to put your pistol or your cell phone. Just to have it handy. Like if you literally just want to have like 3 rifle magazines in your rifle next there, a couple pistol mags, a medical kit, a flashlight stowed in there, one of the magazines for the AR-15, so you have 2 magazines, then like a little spot to put your cell phone or something else in there. Like it makes a world of difference.
Yeah.
So
yeah. No, I agree. From JC, if you couldn't shoot any practical shooting sport anymore, what would you shoot? Bench rest, bullseye, clays, etc.
Pinterest, bullseye, clays, bullseye, clay.
I don't know. I really don't know, because I mean my entire gun world is wrapped up in the competitive sports. That's a hard question.
I mean, I imagine bench rush would be kind of fun just because there's an envelope of how far out you can hit something, and messing around with loads. That would be pretty decent. But I don't think I could get into any of the shotgun sports.
Yeah, I'm not a shotgun guy. I just don't care enough about it. It's fun. It's a lot of fun to do, but I just don't care about it enough to really want to go out and make it a thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I certainly don't have the patience for bullseye.
Bullseye. I could do bullseye. The problem is when you get something into like bullseye shooting. Yeah, it's one of those things that would be like you would go out to the range and you would just sit there and whap, 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 go back, shoot, one-handed, shoot.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Let's see. I got some factory Remington 115 grain 9mm for my Shadow 2 and had 2 failure to extract malfunctions in 200 rounds. Could this be an ammo issue, extractor, or something else?
Are you left-handed?
It's Remington.
Remington. What was the ammo again? Was it the
Remington 115 grain 9mm?
Is it like the UMC or is it like the forged?
I don't know. It doesn't say.
Either
way, it's suboptimal.
Yeah, Remington, the UMC stuff, I haven't had terrible issues with. That forged stuff is absolutely god awful. Any of their steel case stuff is terrible. Yeah. If you're left-handed, move your thumb out of the ejection port, and that will stop some of those extraction issues.
Hey, I know somebody who had that problem.
Yeah, the one thing I would sit there and look at if you're having issues with a certain type of ammo is, one, just check your grip. Make sure your grip's not interfering with anything in the gun. So like put your thumbs in a position like a thumbs down position. Make sure you're staying away from the controls. See if it goes. But we had some of that Remington stuff and we were shooting it and it choked on the SIGs. It choked on my Glocks. The only gun that it did not choke on was the PX4. And I think it had something to do with the rotating barrel unlocking instead of the tilting barrel. It just seemed like it was smoother to extract that steel case out of there. But yeah, some of that, believe me, I remember listening to lectures about you can't make ammunition better than the factory. It's like, no, you can. It's not hard. Yeah. It's not hard, especially for that budget stuff. I don't think there's almost any quality control on a lot of that stuff. I mean, I've had I've seen 40 bullets loaded in 9mm. I've seen ones without primers before. Like it's not hard.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think everything Tommy said. Honestly, I would go shoot a bunch of it. I mean, you can check your extractor by sliding a case up inside of it and seeing if it shakes loose. But if you haven't had any other problems and everything else is working, check your recoil spring. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just too stiff of a spring for that lightweight load. That could possibly be it. But that's my guess.
Yeah.
So I had one question that was just from me. What do you think of this $73 million lawsuit settlement that the Sandy Hook families got from Remington? The insurance providers.
Well, that's just kind of the thing. The settlements from the insurance providers, not from Remington. Remington was pretty much. I mean, they're protected by. They can't.
The law.
They can't be sued for it, and they
Right.
can't be held liable for it. It's going to be the same thing that you're seeing with like the banking stuff and with like the truckers and everything like that. Is like you're going to see financial institutions or other private entities decide, we're going to show how great we are. We'll pay the settlement. We'll pay the settlement, one, to get rid of it, two, to kind of put it out there in the press that Remington lost. I wouldn't doubt that there was a lot of political.
Hay to be made.
Well, yeah, positioning to be made on it. But you're gonna have the issue where like the NSSF is the only people that are going to be able to provide insurance for these companies, and so the NSSF will just provide it.
Yeah.
So it'll just be like NRA instructors insurance. So your gun manufacturer, this is the NSSF's insurance liability, and then you go from that. Because if these other private organizations are going to basically go away from it, I mean, because that insurance is made for mistakes in the manufacturing, not for people breaking the law and the use of it. And
Right,
so
and that's the whole point of it, was that, I mean, if it's such an odd thing that we want to go after firearm manufacturers for people using their product illegally, where we have a very strong disconnect between, if somebody drives a Ford and kills somebody, are we going to sue Ford for what that
Yeah.
person did illegally? It doesn't make any sense. In any other industry, it makes no sense. But for some reason, firearms it's just a sticky subject. But I think it's a little bit of much ado about nothing. The insurance companies can do whatever they want because they just want it off their books, and that's totally fine. But I don't think it'll really set a precedence.
yeah, well, I think it's going to be. I mean, because if there is a company that had nothing to go after, it was freaking Remington. Remington's
Yeah.
already in bankruptcy, and the other part too. I was going through I was looking at Colt's website. Have you been to Colt's website lately? Colt's website, on the bottom of it says a CZ company. So it's like
Dan Wesson?
Well, yeah, like Dan. Oh, Steve's flashing bills.
Dollar bills. Woo!
It's called a fast way to turn $2,000 into $1,800. So where did I leave off with? You guys were telling a story about Colt and CZ. How CZ bought Colt.
Yeah, well, we were talking about the Remington insurance company paying off of the Sandy Hook people.
Oh yeah, that's not a good precedent.
Yeah, well, it's the insurance company. So our thing is the insurance company is going to do what the insurance companies are going to do. And so eventually the NSSF will be the only ones basically providing gun manufacturers with insurance. They'll come up with their own thing to basically protect them. But I was just looking at that Remington had like has nothing because it's basically a defunct company. But I was looking at, I forget what I was going by, like Dan Wesson and Colt, and I was looking at them, and on the bottom of their website it says a CZ company. So isn't that crazy? Like you're going to have the CZ conglomerate. So putting out there. Okay, so you drove the car back up, and Robin hadn't drove in it before. I think that's where you left off.
Yeah, Robin drove it, and she's like, "This is a little too rough for my daughter," And it's a 2014 Kia Rio with 165,000 miles. It's not new.
Yeah,
it doesn't look new. It drives all right. It drives fine. So anyway, I was like, Robin, do you really want to? I gave her the freedom to say, let's punch out of this deal.
Yeah.
So she went out and bought a Nissan Sentra, something newer, better.
It's a good car.
And I've had this car up for sale, and I've had 10,000 people, because a $2,000 car, there's a lot of interest out there for a $2,000
yeah.
car. And I've had 2 or 3 people come drive it, but of course everyone's like, well, it has a squeal. I'm like, it's a $2,000.
It's $2,000.
I mean, it's gonna
Yeah,
have
what
a
do you
squeal.
want?
Well, have you seen the inflation prices on other cars? This is $2,000. What do you think is going to be perfect? It's the
Yeah.
diamond in the rough, everybody. Look at it's the Rolex. It's the Rolex you found in your dad's drawer.
And
No, it's not.
This guy just finally bought it for $1,800. But at least we got it anyway. It's one of those things you just kind of want to get it over with.
It was
we lost $200, but whatever. At least I can forget about it now.
it was
Right,
it
right.
was a $200 monotonous date down to Manti and back.
It was a $200 lesson about putting yourself in a situation where you are pushed to make a decision that you wouldn't normally make.
Yeah.
Like you should not put yourself in that position because you're make a bad decision.
Yeah, it's hard because I mean, by driving to Manti, you've kind of committed to that at that point, and it's like, what are you gonna do? Go home without it?
It's like when you meet somebody at Cabela's that's from like North Utah, and you're selling them a handgun, and they're like, "Oh, will you take 500 for it?" No, I won't. You know why I won't? Because I'm closer to my house than you are to yours.
Yeah.
And then they're like, "Okay, I got it." And then as soon as you get the money, you're like, "Block that number, flip the wheel around, peel out of the parking lot. You'll never see me again."
And so I pull out the title, and there's like reassign title. I'm like, well, I'll just reassign it to you. And he's like, no, don't sign that. Just give it to me. And so I'm like, okay, here you go. And then I start filling out a bill of sale. He's like, oh, don't even fill that out. Just take the $1,800. Whatever you say, good sir.
Just get it out of there.
Cash to me. Here's the keys. See ya.
The next time Steve sees that car is from the top-down view of a helicopter, well, there's a police chase.
Robin, we got it.
We can
Check it out, baby.
We're flush.
Say hi. Oh wait, you got to come in a little more.
We got it. Robin, steal the money and run.
Robin's going shoe shopping.
Robin comes back, 2 pairs of shoes, baby. 2 pairs of shoes.
That's not funny. 2 weeks ago, she bought a pair of shoes for $600.
Yeah, that's they. There's
tell Andrea how much I spent on my pistols.
That's
like a thing. That is a thing.
She bought the CZ style, the CZ Shadow version of shoes and a purse.
If that's the case, then the heel is going to break in about 2 weeks.
Well, maybe she can get someone else to drive and buy those shoes off her.
Yeah. So online RO training. So there clearly needs to be some sort of an in-person aspect because you can't show anyone that you know what the hell you're doing unless you're actually on a range with a person,
Yeah.
But you could do a lot of it. You could do a lot of it virtually, I imagine.
Oh, so here, let me read the question because I think you're agreeing with the question. But he says, thoughts on making an RO-CRO class more online based? At least the classroom portion. I think more people would be willing to attend a one-day course, especially if you're traveling to attend the class.
Oh, yeah. I think exactly. I think you could do 90% of it, but you do have to have some sort of an in-person thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just don't know how you would do that.
My idea was to break it up in 8 different segments and then basically have a full-time CRO available for phone call or email at headquarters. So if you had questions or clarifications, and if you really needed to have that in-person training for like 2 hours, then maybe you could have a CRO instructor. You could have him at a match for like 2 hours after the match, and then everyone who had completed, like, you would have like, okay,
that's an interesting concept.
You've done the online part, and now we just need to test you on an actual range. And so we're going to stay here for 2 hours, and here are the 4 students in this area, and you will go through. And it's like, so like you could have 90% of your RO training completed, and then you're just waiting for that Saturday where the guy will actually be there to sit there for the last 2 hours and have you guys like, okay, score the range.
What you do is everybody shows up, including the CRO guy, and they actually all squad together, shoot the match, and then everybody takes turns RO, and you have the RMI instructor, and they actually like watch over you and say, okay, here's best practices, here's things to look at. I mean, stuff like that. That's going to end up being a lot of That's going to end up being a lot of return on value just to have somebody standing over your shoulder.
Yeah. It'd
There
be
are
great.
definitely ways to do it. I think
Yeah.
that's probably the way of the future.
I think
And
so.
you could make it, you could have however much classroom portion, virtual classroom, either on demand or live with an instructor, so you could ask questions, however they want to do that, and then some live portion.
If I can,
Yeah.
if I can buy a suppressor online and do 90% of it without even going
Sure.
into a gun shop, why can't I get an RO?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the thing you have to remember about USPSA is, I mean, they're an organization that has their own institutional inertia. There's people that have developed a comfort level on how they operate things, and as time goes on, they slowly get drug into the 21st, 22nd century, and you're like, okay, this email thing actually works. Let's start using it.
Yeah.
You know,
We
And, I
can
mean, at this
disconnect the
point-
fax machine.
Yeah, at this point, I mean, most of them have gotten rid of their MySpace account, and
Which is funny because in the early days of the Utah Defensive Pistol League, we would actually mail the match results
oh my
to people.
gosh,
in '97 because
Oh
not
my
everyone had
gosh.
email.
Oh yeah. Well, the other part too is like if you and
Really?
if you drag a USPSA too far too quickly, they try to get rid of you as fast as they can. So there's.
Oh, speaking of which, did you see the IDPA came out? I
The
said this-
appendix thing.
the appendix
Oh
thing,
my God.
like,
We're
finally,
looking.
like,
Listen. This has been a thing for 15 years. And as a self-defense sport, we're going to start looking into it in the year 2022 on how we can possibly make it possible that you can draw from the front of your pants.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess
I mean,
it's just
appendix
funny.
carry isn't really any bigger now than it was in '96 when IDPA was created. So it's just kind of funny that they're a founder's intent. I guess the founders always intended appendix carry, right?
Like, well, how are
And
they
1
going?
second per point down.
Like, how are they going to look into this to see if it's any better or safer? It's like, the hell are you talking about? Like, what course of action are we going to take to sit there and go like, now, like, hey, now that we've decided, if you just push your pelvis out towards the targets at the end and then holster, then you're okay. But if you don't do that, then it's not safe. Or it's like,
It almost smells like this is just unprincipled money grubbing. Like we had this rule and we believe in it, but we're losing membership, so we're changing our rules.
yeah.
Mhm,
Also,
100%.
CompTac probably is coming out with a pretty nice appendix holster that they're. Listen,
Robbie Leatham on the Facebook when it was I can't remember where it was that I saw it, but he actually had a point that I never thought about. I mean, if I'm a left-handed shooter and I start running to the right and I'm trying to draw that gun, now I mean the likelihood of that gun getting pointed uprange as I try and draw that gun
yeah.
is an increased thing. I think he's right. I think
That's
it's a valid
true.
concern, but it's something that we all have to learn as shooters how to effectively navigate a course of fire and do so safely.
It's like a back to target start. I mean, guess what?
Yeah.
Turn, then
Then
draw. Turn, then it's like, well, there's
I have introduced that into my new shooter class. Like we used to just a really simple just first stage, but now we do the bill drill or the El Pres because it has the turn element of it, so I can actually talk to them. And
That's
I
a
always
great
tell them
idea.
the same thing. Okay, on the make ready, you don't make ready facing up range.
yeah.
I made a mistake at a like a level 2 match. It was Utah State or Area 1 or something like that. I was ROing, and a guy wandered into the shooter box, and I told him to make ready, and he pulled his gun out like he was looking at me. I was like, "Make ready," and he pulled his gun out. And I was
Are you
like,
sure you didn't
"What
tell
the
him?
fuck?"
You sure you didn't tell him draw?
Maybe it wasn't a level 2 match, but I was like, I mean, that was bad on me because clearly some people are not paying enough attention that whatever you tell, it was Bash.
It was bad.
That's who did it. It was
Mhm.
Bash.
It was up at LTD.
Yeah, at LTD. He was looking up range, and I said, "Make ready," and he just pulled his gun out, or pulled the revolver out, and started loading it up. And I was like, "Oh God!"
Yeah, that example actually was where I developed the idea of talking to people and saying, okay, maybe we change it. And we'll do the El Pres first because I can talk to them then, so that they get the idea of let's when they say make ready, make sure you're facing downrange. and
Yeah.
then turn. And so,
And
and
as-
I
as the
actually use that
RO
as an example.
And as the RO, I should make the shooter face in a safe in case just there's the 1 in 1,000 chance that they're not paying attention.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
hard because some people, like more experienced shooters, you say make ready, and they'll face up range, and then they'll
turn and draw.
and do a draw.
Yeah.
But a new guy who doesn't understand that, he's going to think, oh, that's how I do it.
He's telling me to get that gun out. Let's get it
Yeah.
loaded.
That was the worst.
Yeah.
Well,
What was the worst that was when he went over to the other bay and he was kind of crying a little bit, and then I really felt bad.
Ugh.
On that
Monsters.
downer note, actually, dude, not this Saturday, but last Saturday, the squad that I was on, we could have DQ'd 11 people on that squad.
What the
Uh-huh.
hell for?
It was a new squad, and people, they were trying really hard, but the stages, they were a little bit difficult. There was a lot of uprange movement.
and this is why IDPA doesn't want to allow the appendix. It's just like because it's a difficult stage. It had a lot of movement. We need people to fill our matches.
Yeah, it was just. I mean, some days it's just bad days.
Okay, there wasn't anything particularly trappy about the stage.
Not trap so much as just the way that you had to shoot some of the targets. You were almost guaranteed because there were some really long steel shots, so the likelihood of going empty was pretty high.
Okay.
And so people would go empty, and then
so they go empty into a reload while they're already turned.
Yeah.
Shooting at the steel close to the 180, and then you're over. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Dan Ward at LTD. So we all know that as you get older, you lose muzzle awareness direction. We've just all seen this with shooters in their 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s. You just don't understand where your muzzle is pointing like you do when you're in your 30s.
Yeah.
It's just a fact of life. It's not a comment on. It's just this happens when you get older.
Are you
Dan
being
Ward.
ageist?
Dan Ward went
bullets
like
leak?
182 twice in the same stage, and I wasn't the RO, but I was I'm standing back there with my eyes, as big as saucers. I'm looking at the RO. I'm like, wow.
I always like that look as just like, is anyone gonna do any? It's like this is how people get killed in the middle of the street, but beaten by gangs, and they're yelling help the whole time. Where everyone just turns and looks at each other. Are we gonna do anything about this? What's going on?
Dan's in his 60s, probably, right? He's a great shooter.
Yeah.
Super good friend of all of us. And after the stage, someone went over to him who wasn't the RO. It wasn't me. Someone else who wasn't the RO went over to him and like, Dan, twice you went over. And I'm like, like you could have been tossed twice in that stage. And he's like, what? What do you mean? And I was like, right there and right there. But
Yeah.
so anyway,
we had a guy yesterday. You started in the box, shot some stuff, and then we're shooting in this direction, and then you're running diagonal from the right to the left up range, and it's that classic kind of tactical world thing where they're doing this with the gun
real hard
kind of
to
thing.
try and get the mag out.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there. I was done, and I'm looking over, and I see that gun shaking, and I'm like, oh look, there's the barrel. Oh, I can see down the barrel. And
So anyway, I'm
was just like,
53 now. So as I start to get on and over the 180, I expect you guys to call my ass and toss me. I remember telling Farley about that one time. I was like, Farley, I wasn't the RO, but I was like, you were over right there. He's like,
Farley's. Do you know Farley's retiring as the
From
section
shooting?
coordinator?
oh, I didn't know he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's kind of giving me the bullshit. I'm like, okay, well, you say what you want, but
You
I
do
saw
you.
what I saw. If
You
I
do
was
you.
holding the timer.
What I think is funny about the appendix thing in IDPA is they don't have a 180 rule. They have the muzzle cones. Or did they get rid of the muzzle cones?
So you can have either or both.
But like
The default is now the 180. But if there are cones present, then the cones.
So like
Yeah.
you could
Use the cones.
you could just use the effing cones and put it in positions like have a rule for appendix or whatever. Like certain stages you put the cones. Gallery must be inside the cones at all times during the shooting. Like you could have that.
What is your opinion on the cones, though?
I think they're good.
I've seen a stage where they did it, and I guess I just don't like it. I mean that the gun's pointing what I conceive as being past the 180, which in my brain has always been a hard stop.
Well, yeah. Well, the problem is with the cones is as you go deeper into the bay, if you turn around, you can still have that stuff in there. But look at this. We will stand at the 185 line of the range and have someone shoot like this towards us, but it's okay.
Yeah.
There's a 180. But if we have the cones out and someone goes and turns this way and we're still over here because it appears to be uprange, it's all how it's deployed within the bay.
Exactly. And it's all about how good your stage setter upper is. If they're not paying any attention, the cones can be completely unsafe because you can run 15 yards uprange and the cones are back at the start position, or downrange, I mean.
Yeah.
And now you can point the gun, you can point the gun almost straight back behind you if you've advanced 15 yards up. So, I mean, if you're paying attention, the cones are great. But I so many times showed up to an IDPA match and we're like the second squad on the bay. And I'm like, who put these cones out? These are ridiculous. This is completely unsafe.
It does allow you to use. It does allow you to use non-traditional type bays.
Yes, and the flexibility is nice, but I think IDPA really got it right when they said the default is the 180, but if there's cones, then and you can even combine them.
Yeah,
in certain situations, I was like, that's right. If you're not paying attention and people don't put cones out, just use the 180. Yeah, that's great.
Yep, for sure. All right, well, that sounds like an episode. We'd like to thank Robert for joining us for the entire show, Steve for joining us for half the show, and
thank you
not,
for the
not thank you.
Rich.
I'll pass.
Now you got to clean up $1,800 on the floor. There's one on the piano, right on the keys. There's one on the bench underneath the piano, right
There's
there.
Probably going to be one stuck somewhere that I'll never find. Where's that last $50?
That
tear the entire room apart. I know it's somewhere.
That $200 loss has turned into a $300 loss. There's 250s missing. So anyway, thanks to all those people. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for downloading, subscribing. For Steve Koski, Robert White, and Kate Terry, I'm Tom Nelson. Bid you peace, love, and souls. We depart into the open waters of the sea of life on a little tugboat we like to call the PARAcast.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Good night, everybody.